So great, and another thing that I'd like to share with all of you, I love to keep the session interactive. So while I'm speaking, put in your questions, put in your comments. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, I'd love to hear it as well. Remember, I'm just offering one perspective. There are so many perspectives to everything in life, and I want to hear yours as well. Hi, Sahil from Namita. Hi, back to you. All right, so let's begin. So, I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes, and you may have heard me say this before. And it's, fear will hold you prisoner and hope shall set you free. But I really want to focus on in that first half, fear will hold you prisoner. That's one of the things that is preventing us from freedom. Now, we're going to talk about different things that are preventing us from freedom in the mind. But the first one I want to talk about is fear. And when you have fear, what that does is essentially, it's keeping you in your zone of comfort. Because every time you get to that edge of the zone of comfort, you have that fear. Now, whatever area of life that may be, you go, ooh, I don't like it here. It's uncomfortable. I don't know what to expect. So I'm just going to go back into my zone of comfort because, ooh, it's comfortable here. And although it's not as nice as I want it to be, I know what it's like. And I'm okay with that. So start asking yourself, how is fear holding you back? Now again, fear can be useful. Fear is going to protect you, right? It's going to protect you when you see a vicious lion chasing you, for example, or you're driving and someone slams the brake in front of you and you're about to hit him, and fear helps you to react quickly. But the question here is, when is fear useful and when is fear paralyzing? And we want to ensure that fear is not paralyzing. So again, fear is holding you prisoner, right? So start asking yourself, what fear is holding me back from achieving my true potential or where I wish to go? Because once I cross that zone of fear, I enter the learning zone. I start to learn. I'm like, wow, it's actually not as hard as I thought, or wow, I didn't even see this before, something new. And then once you evolve from the zone of learning, you get into the zone of growth, and that's where transformation is happening. So essentially, fear is preventing you from transforming. So if you're happy where you are and you're comfortable with your life and you don't want to change, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to transform and elevate, start identifying the fear that's holding you back. So that's point number one. Let's get to point number two, superstitions. Superstitions, and I guess that's also related to fear. I've been told many times that, if you do this, then this will happen. How you've heard of walking under a ladder is bad luck, crossing the path of a cat or a black cat specifically is bad luck, opening an umbrella indoors is bad luck. And when you see something happen or someone in the family doing it, you're like, oh my goodness, something terrible is going to happen to us. But it may also prevent you from making the right decision, right? I mean, what if I'm on my way to your house and a black cat crosses the road? Now, maybe I'm just 100 meters away. And if I can't cross that path, I might have to take a 5-minute detour. So imagine I'm taking a lot of extra time for something which is a superstition. Now, look, there are a lot of superstitious people out there. I was one of them, because that's what was drilled into my head. But over the years, I realized that whenever something happens good, I can always link it to something that I just did, or if anything bad happens, I can link that as well to something that just recently happened, whether it was, any of the items I mentioned earlier about superstitions. But the point is, you can always attach something positive or negative to any situation if you really want to. So again, it's perhaps linked to fear, but ask yourself how superstitions are preventing you from truly being free. The third one that I'd like to, bring up is, it's always been that way. This is what was drilled into my head. My grandparents told my parents told me, I'm telling my children, and we all just accepted, but no one really asked the question, why? And again, it's causing confusion. It's not allowing you to be totally free. Because you just said, okay. You just said, okay, I accept it because I've been told to do it that way. But ask yourself the question, what could be the reason? I remember someone told me, you should never cut your nails, your fingernails or your toenails at night. And I was thinking to myself, okay, What could be the reason? And as I started to reflect and, speak and ask others, I realized that back in the day, before electricity, or when light was very low and was gradually getting lower because you didn't have light bulbs, if you cut your nails at night and you couldn't see where a nail might have flown off, it would be on the floor, someone might step on it, get hurt, this and that. So, that was the reason why you were told that it's not a good idea to cut your nails at night. But guess what? Now we have electricity, we've got lights. So it doesn't really matter anymore. But if we have that in our minds and it's instilled in our minds and we've conditioned ourselves to believe that, we're going, no, but that's how it's always been done. So we have to do it that way. I really wish I could cut my nails right now because I've got a lot of free time and tomorrow's a busy day, but I can't do it at night. So I'll share a funny story with you that's, my mentor shared with me. And it's a non-vegan one, right? You'll see why when I say it in a minute. But a family was, there was a family affair and they were having a roast for dinner. And so while they're preparing this roast, the one who was cooking the roast cut the front and the back of it and then put it in the oven. And so the family members asked, like, why are you cutting the front and the back of this roast and putting it in the oven? And she goes, actually I don't know. But that's how my mum always did it. And guess what? She's coming over for dinner, so let's ask her. Now the mother comes along, and so the guests start asking, they go, hey, why is it that you cut your roast at the front and the back and then put it in the oven? And she starts to think and she goes, I don't know. That's how I was taught by my mother. And guess what? She's coming over for dinner as well, so let's ask her. So now we've got the third generation coming in, the grandmother comes along for dinner, and then the guests, they're all curious, wondering, what could be this reason? And they ask her, so why do you cut the roast at the front and the back? And she goes, because our oven sizes were only so small, so that was the only way it would fit in the oven. So this tradition kept going on through generations and wasn't applicable anymore because oven sizes started to get larger, but still the tradition was being followed. So again, ask yourself, what am I still following? Because that's the way it's always been done. And no one ever asked the question, why, or what's the reason, or what's the logic behind it, or what's the history behind it. We just accepted it because that's what we were told. And think about it, you've learned so many of these things over the years, and you have to ask yourself, my goodness, I actually now need to unlearn what I've learned and then relearn. And for all of you that thought learning was over once you finish school, guess what? No. Or university, no. It's a lifelong thing, right? We find out, we evolve, and we get to where we are. So anyway, and I love this comment that Anju brings along as well. She talks about the herd instinct. And that happens as well, right? How many times are we sometimes doing something because it's considered normal, or that's why, because it's what everyone else does. Now, if you do what everyone else is doing, yes, it's the herd mentality, but how about listening to your own instincts? How about listening to your mind and going, you know what, I actually think it's something different. And I'm going to stick to it. I mean, imagine the world of science when everyone said that the world is round and not flat. Imagine when people like Newton was talking about the concept of gravity and people, they just couldn't comprehend it. I mean, there's a lot of people that thought beyond the herds and they stood out because they stood up for what they believed and they understood, and then they wished to share with the world. Many of them were ridiculed in the beginning, but eventually over time, people understood. And I'm going to give you a very simple example as well about, herd mentality. I mean, being a spiritual individual, I can tell you that over the years, if I would talk about the soul or spirituality, now it's accepted. People are talking about it. There's lots of, videos online, lots of people, celebrities who are following it. But had I had the same conversation just 20 years ago, people would be, oh, you're like a hippie. What is this hoo-ha stuff? I probably would have been like that myself 20 years back. So again, ask yourself that what qualities am I holding on to that no longer serve me and are actually holding me back? And I've got to now start to unlearn everything that I've learned and relearn and actually, relearn the truth. So Anju's mentioning COVID has taught us a lot, absolutely. Hopefully a lot of people have been spending time reflecting and realizing how we can live without a lot of things that we thought we couldn't live without. Taught us the value of family, so many amazing lessons. And I'd love to hear lessons that everyone's learned from this group of people that are on right now. So how can we evolve? The only way to evolve is through a heightened state of awareness. And so start asking yourself, right? Someone asked me, how can I get a heightened state of awareness? And I said, look, it's practice. You're not going to get it all, immediately on day one. But what you can do is every evening before you go to bed, just run through your day and ask yourself, where were moments where I felt that my blockages, the various ones that we've already discussed today, whether it's superstition, whether it's fear, whether it's the things that I've been taught this way, whether it's herd mentality, whatever it might be that's preventing you from freedom, ask yourself, what is holding me back? And what did I do today that actually served me and pushed me forward? And as you start to do that, and Dwani mentions a great point, you can note it down. It's great to journal, absolutely. Because then you can flick through the journal and you start to see a pattern. And you go, my goodness, I didn't realize that this frame of mind was holding me back. Now that I'm aware, let me be more conscious about it. And every time that pops into my head, I'm going to say, pause, hey, what's going on? This is not serving me. I need to change in order to elevate. But if you're not aware, you're just going to continue living your life the way you do right now. So thank you for sharing that, Dwani. Absolutely. Just journal. Spend 5 minutes. That's all it takes. I know you're really busy. You have lots of things going on. But 5 minutes is a tiny amount of time to ask for. So brilliant. Now I want to throw it over to the ball into your court. I want to hear your questions, your comments about how freedom begins with the mind. So fire away with your questions. Put it in the question box, or else you can put it in the comment box as well below. And if you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you as well. What experiences can you share with the audience on how you overcame some of these and what method you used in order to remove these blockages so that you could have more freedom? So we've got Anju, I procrastinate even though I know where I need to head. Oh, absolutely. Let's just kick that bucket down the road. Let's keep doing that, right? That's a lovely one, actually, procrastination. The entire basis of the framework of this book that I've written, Break Free, is that clutter is nothing more than shunned confrontations. So it's like you're just shunning confrontation in all areas of your life. How many times are you catching yourself saying, ooh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll get to it soon? The question we have to ask ourselves is, how important is it for us, or for our families, for our work, for our health? And then say, is delaying the process causing more challenges, or is it serving me? Because sometimes it's okay to procrastinate in certain areas. They just might not be a high priority. I remember when I went through some life-changing events recently, I only focused on what was absolutely critical because my time was very limited. And for everything else, I said, I'm just going to get back to it later. Okay, so Dwani, silence the mind to begin with. Yeah, to silence the mind. So, a lot of people say silence the mind. And I can tell you with at least my experience, it's impossible. The mind loves to do this. But what we can do is, instead of it going like that, we can slow it down. So what is a great technique you can use to slow the mind down? And one is just breathe. Just sit in one place and just take deep breaths. Really open up that chest and the deep belly breaths. Just breathe and just watch how your mind goes from 6th gear all the way down to 1st. Okay, we got Namita who's saying awareness is the key, I feel. Pausing every now and then helps me to see how I'm feeling. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Pause is the key word here, right? Because otherwise, we're just running and we don't stop. And what if you end up running in the wrong direction? Like running. Next thing you know, you're 10 miles in the wrong direction. But sometimes you just need to pause and look around and see what's going on, especially within yourself. Oh, wonderful. I practice and pause and watch how I feel and reflect several times a day, from Namita. Absolutely. That's brilliant. A great tool that I use with the pausing is doing a body scan, right? So when I pause, I sit in my chair and I go, let me start from the head and go all the way down to my toes and just do a scan. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? And it just helps me to focus and quieten the mind as well. So that's another technique you can use if breathing ends up being a bit of a challenge. Oh, we've got Komal joining all the way from the West Coast, USA, I believe. We're just about to end, but there will be a recording of this online soon. So any more questions before we call it a wrap? We got one more comment. Namita is mentioning, I feel it works more than sitting in meditation at once for 30 minutes. Absolutely. I always tell people that meditation is not always about sitting in that cross-legged position, right? I mean, yes, that could be part of it as well, but meditation is really when you're in flow. When you're in flow, I mean, imagine when you have those moments, depending on what you enjoy in life. Sometimes you're playing a musical instrument and you have no idea what's going on around you. You're just in the zone, you're in flow. That's meditation. You might be a dancer, you might be an artist, you might be a painter, right? I mean, there's so many things you could be doing. You could be a mathematician, you could be anything that you enjoy doing. When you're in flow, that's being in a meditative state. So Komal is saying, oh, don't worry, the recording will be there. We have Bela who just joined. We're just wrapping up actually, it's the end for Freedom Begins in the Mind. I hope you all enjoyed this session. Again, if you'd like to know more, please go on my website. It's at the start of this chat. You can enter your email address for a complimentary 5-week course to the Break Free Foundation course. It's a set of 5 videos over 5 weeks. So with that, I bid you all farewell, and I shall see you. Just when I was about to say next week, a question popped in. Let's see. How to ensure that we are in control and the mind is not master? Very good question. So the mind, many times is the master because we're fueling it, right? So the key is to start feeling, right? And when your mind is very fast, it's difficult to feel. It's difficult to go to intuition, gut feel. There's many words for it. Your heart, your soul. People use lots of different words. You're not really listening in that area. So my recommendation is follow those pauses, follow those breath work exercises that I've given, the body scans, because when you do that, you start to slow the mind down. And when you slow it down, you get access to it at a deeper level. Again, intuition, soul, gut feel, heart, whatever you wish to call it. And start listening to what that is saying. So I hope that helps. Any more questions before we wrap up for today? Okay, well, if anyone has any burning questions that they weren't able to ask today, feel free to direct message me. Otherwise, I bid you farewell. Enjoy the rest of this wonderful Sunday, the 6th of June, and I shall see you next week.